All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kerry-Ann Joseph-McLean, as we are here again on a Tuesday, giving thanks and being grateful that we have the opportunity to share different topics on our Health Talk, which happens every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So for those of you who have joined, kindly place yourself on mute. And of course, if you have questions, you can place that in the chat and we can try to answer that at the end of our session. As you know, we are health enthusiasts, myself and my husband, Joseph-McLean. We have been passionate about health for over a decade. And so we sort of align ourselves or transition from our corporate world to, being impactful and empowering lives through health and wellness. So we are actually on a journey for a healthier lifestyle. And so in doing that and making, simple changes in our life, we found that not only has it benefit ourselves and our family, but those that we come in contact with, even people that who through, the 6 degrees of separation, so to speak, we are still impacting lives by healthy conversations around, different topics concerning your health and your overall well-being. So we started this initiative about 4 months ago in the way of having these conversations via this platform through Zoom. And we also have a community of like-minded individuals through our Facebook, which is a private group, which is by invite only. And for those of you who are on a different stage in your life for health, like, for your overall wellness, I invite you to have that ability to sort of identify the things that are going on in your life that can cause illnesses or prolonged illnesses to happen. And, there's a perfect storm that can happen in our lives without even realizing it because there's an undercurrent of things happening. Stress is a major factor, different type of things happening in your life, cycles, upward, downward cycles, and then your moods shifts depending on what's happening in your life. And so today we're speaking on mental health. And coincidentally, this month is the mental health awareness, the month of May. And I want to encourage you, especially in our community, to not identify mental health as a taboo. Most individuals who are struggling with mental challenges, whether it's minor or major disorders, they tend to sort of stay within, get withdrawn, and so there's no outlet. And so when there's no outlet or a safe community of people to speak to, you feel isolated. So being isolated also triggers a downward spiral of emotions. And so it is where, people are judged, either in the workplace or in the, in social gathering, online. And so today we're going to speak on a few areas because mental health has a wide variety of topics. I'll be speaking on mental health itself, but certain type of coping things or tips we can provide in this particular conversation that we're having. And as I share this with you, if you have a pen and paper, you can write down some of the things that have given you like an aha moment. Or in this case, you find that, something you have learned, and feel free again to if you feel like you're in a safe environment, to maybe share a concern or a question you may have for yourself and a loved one. Now, when you have your in your mindset that you are struggling with something or you don't quite feel balanced, sometimes it takes someone who is outside of that picture to sort of like in a sense identify that something's not quite right. Some of us sometimes are in denial or we suppress it. We go through emotions. And I want to share with you a couple things. I'll give you a perfect example for myself and my husband for just post COVID. We had from no deaths in our family for many, many decades to, 5 deaths of loved ones passing away in an 8-month period. Now, there's different ways we cope, different way we suppress. And for that, depression can actually be masked as grief. So there's different things I want to share with you that just to let you know that you're not alone. And if you can, link arms with someone or a group of people who can share some of your concerns, and if you feel that you feel isolated, the things I want to share with you that you can have in your arsenal, your basket of coping skills. I call them like your coping basket or your arsenal or basket of different things that you can work with. I want to share that with you because as I'm sharing these slides with you, for those of you who are here on social media, you're going to see these slides. But for those of you who are part of the group, You can go to the events and you can register there. It takes you in right away and you can see the slides that are readily available through the Zoom. And as I share this with you, as I mentioned to you, it's information that we've gathered. I just want to make a disclaimer here. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a health practitioner. I am not in that field, but what myself and my husband are, we're health enthusiasts. And as we're health enthusiasts, we want to be able to uplift each other, as well as people that we know, like, and trust, and even people we have no association with. Because if you can have that ability to encourage someone through empathy, not sympathy or pity, then you can be that person that can lend that shoulder, or virtual shoulder to help in that process, right? So for the mental health, I'm speaking of today, there's different things that can be categorized under mental health. And so, there could be depression, it could be feeling discouraged, you feel unhappiness, you have no sense of joy, you feel gloomy, and there can be different things in life that can trigger these things. And again, like I said, you can have suppressed emotions. And as I share this with you, as I said, feel free to take a screen capture if you wish to. But what causes mental illness? So there's no single known cause of mental illness. In most cases, several factors contribute to that. Could be early trauma that has not been identified or released from your system, can cause other illnesses besides mental health. You'll have an adverse life experience that is, for example, that can cause PTSD. You can experience related things that chronic medical conditions such as cancer, diabetes. You can have a chemical imbalance or biological factors, feel isolated, loneliness, or even, in some instances, addiction to drug and alcohol. And I want to point this out to you. I've had in our family, we've had a few deaths with individuals in our family members who've had either, have recovered from, in remission from cancer, especially one of my dear cousins who's like a sister to me. And then, for example, my father who passed away many years from prostate cancer, and my mom who recently passed away from pancreatic cancer. Now, I want to share that with you because if you're going through, I'm going to point out this particular one because this is one that's near and dear to my heart. My mother was diabetic and she had a stroke and she suffered from depression because there was a second actual stroke which left her immobile. And so in her case, as the mother, she did not want to sort of have us feel burdened. So she kept it to herself. But then I realized certain things because her doctor says, even someone smiling, they may be suffering from depression. So look out for that, little things that they don't want you to worry about. And so I actually was able to identify it, but through coaxing, she said, I asked her how she's feeling. I'm okay. I'm okay. Then later on found out that she had a feeling of hopelessness. So that is something that if you are working with someone, either professionally or in your family, you want to encourage the person to open up. In the case of diabetes and stroke, that also can be impacting your mental state. And my cousin going through her radiation, they even the social worker asked her if she had any feelings of suicide, any feeling of feeling depressed or sad. And, upbeat as she is, even praying with the doctors when she went in to have her surgery, before they put her under, she didn't have that feeling of depression or sadness. But later on during her radiation, she had moments, and it just comes upon you all of a sudden, right? Because you're suppressing it. So, what is mental health versus mental illness? So, mental health is a state of well-being in which the person, realizes that through their own abilities, they can cope with normal stresses of life, finances, family, work, school, driving, different things like that, which is sort of, they can perform well under that stress and they are productive and they can bring about fruitions of the things that they're working on. But through mental illness is defined as a health condition that affects a person's thinking, behavior, feelings, or their mood. So such conditions may affect someone's ability to relate to others. They have a detachment and not be able to function on an everyday basis. And so the indicators of a good mental health, and here's a screen here, you can actually take a screen capture of this. There's indicator for good health. For an example, I'm not going to go through any because there's many actual, a lot of information on this particular slide. One is a resiliency to stress, empathy, stable relationship, your spirituality, if you're faith-based or otherwise, you have a highest level of self-confidence and a sense of belonging. That's some of the things. There's more. But the indicators of a mental illness is that you feel like you're pulling away from people. So if you see someone in your family, in your circle, that's feel like they're pulling away, being withdrawn, they're not being included in some of the activities, they're putting themselves that way, isolating themselves, that's an indicator. Feeling numb or like nothing matters. Feeling helpless or hopeless, like I mentioned to you, with my mom. And the first indicator for my mom was she actually she had very long hair and she was bedridden. And she came, I think the first 2 weeks from the hospital, and she said, I want to cut it all off. Do you want to cut it all off? She goes, yes. Any reason? No reason. So I gave her a challenge. I said, okay, wait a month. And if you feel the same way, then we'll cut it all off. She goes, okay. So we worked together. So I coaxed it out of her. She was able to get more sleep because for the first 2 weeks of being home, she wasn't sleeping because we were in the hospital for that length of time. The sleeping pattern was disrupted. So she hid that she was actually depressed. But when we were able to speak and ask every single day, let her know that she wasn't a burden. It was my honor to take care of her for that time, for those 2 years. In the beginning of the stage of caring for her, those are the things I wanted to bring out of her so that she can start the recovery of healing. So not everyone has that ability to do that, but I would say to you, connect with a doctor, someone who they can refer you to have that sort of help, the therapy that that person needs because you would have identified certain things. What types of mental health disorders do you have? Mental illness, or is also called, mental health disorders. And there's a wide variety or range of that. And some example of that could be, like I mentioned, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, panic disorder, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and dementia. And the last one that I want to share with you, excuse me, sorry about that, is a phobia. Having certain phobias, that's also a mental disorder. And so growing up in the Caribbean, when some people have certain type of disorders, we give them a certain type of, we class them under one umbrella of being crazy. And so, there's nothing that's really, some go, undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. And so they go through their whole life not knowing exactly what the situation is because it's a taboo to speak about those things. And so for number 6, as I mentioned, which was dementia, my mother was diagnosed with mild to moderate dementia after she had her first stroke. But she was still able to cope, was able to do things, but I could see signs of, lethargy and certain things that she wasn't doing, like exercise and getting up. So even though we encouraged her, it was something that she was in the mood to do. So how do you find a mentally healthy balance? There's certain things I want to share with you, but before I do that, I also want to bring up another area. Now, there's the certain conditions I mentioned before, which is, the 7 types of disorder. But if you combat that or add to that to, for example, social media, they can be unhealthy imbalance with what you're experiencing and social media. So I'm going to go through a few slides with social media and certain things that we can do to detox our lives. As I mentioned to you, there's a wide variety of, mental health, but I just want to pinpoint a few things then and identify different things you can do to help you in combating that. So some of the things for having a healthy balance is if you find that you're depressed, you find that you have no energy and you don't have a feeling to do anything, you tend to gravitate to things to numb you. And one of the things that you can gravitate to numb your mind and your senses is actually focusing that energy on social media platforms. And it's just like a vicious cycle of scrolling and going through, and you're not thinking. You're not able to do things that you're supposed to do to help yourself. So it's like a negative or reverse solution, so that you're finding yourself in a downward spiral versus an upward spiral of good energy. So one of the things I can suggest to you is going through the motion of social media is to put a tracker, put something on your phone to help you with your reducing your consumption so that you have some downtime. One of the things you can look at is if you're going through depression or any type of mental disorder, you tend to have this cycle where you find your sleep is disrupted. You find that you have information overload. You have this comparison trap as well, especially if you find that you're feeling frustrated or stressed. So you think scrolling through social media is going to distress you. And so these can lead to excessive use of your phone with social media. And so these things are a negative impact on your mental health. Some of the things I can suggest to you is to set specific time limits for your social media. Sometimes if you don't have this interruption with your phone, you will find 3, 4, 5 hours will pass and you're still on your phone, and then you get easily bored because you're sort of trying to numb yourself. Schedule on your phone, give yourself a reminder, practice a no phone zone area so that it's not with you, so you can have the ability to practice healthier environment for relaxation. And so you're not always focused on what's going on in the world. So I would say to you, if you turn off your notifications, especially when you're going to sleep, or if you're driving, that's another thing that can distract you. If you find with your friends and to stay engaged with the individuals that you're with, you can actually just go through the emotions of disabling that. Practicing digital detox is another one as well. So you take frequent breaks, go for that walk, give yourself a reminder on your phone just to go for that walk or go for that stretch, get up and to move. How do you actually benefit from this reduced time on social media? The benefits would be that your mood will improve. If you test it for like 7 or at least 14 days or 21 days, practice that for that time to sort of, I call it habit stacking. You give yourself some time if you want to detox yourself from social media for a limited time, and then you can actually pay attention to how you're feeling. Are you getting, improved? Your mood's improved. You find you have better sleep because you've reduced your time. So the blue lights actually reduction of that will help you with your better sleep time. You should find also that your focus and your memory will enhance because you have reduced your screen time. That's a win-win. And of course, because your phone is out, or not in your direct, immediate line of view, you can actually develop stronger relationship because you're spending more time being engaged with your family and friends. So what is the positive mental health? And I wanted to mention to you that some of the things that you can experience. So it's a state of well-being that allows you to feel, think, and act in ways that enhance your overall ability to enjoy your life. It's a conscious decision to make that shift, that change. It gives you the ability to have, or give yourself permission, so to speak, to shift from a negative mental state to a positive mental state because you're making conscious choices every single day as you get up before you go to bed. So one of the things that we can say is high, high levels of mental health. It's self-rated. So you're thinking of happier times throughout the day, be feeling more satisfied with life, and also have high psychological well-being. So if you have this, is over time, as you're experiencing this, you pay attention to how your day goes, how you're feeling, how you're coping with things, and that'll help you to be able to have a better mental state. Now, is there a one-all fit that fits for every single person? No, you can actually create that basket or virtual basket of things you can do, you can grab from that'll help you to shift from the negative mindset to the positive mindset. This is for those who are not having chronic mental health, but those who can actually able to make the shift without medication and without having a therapist. Now, I will explain further on that. So many factors that can contribute to your positive mental health from the individual to society is, the behavior. You find that if you're able to experience and associated with positive mental health, you find that you have more balance in your life. Healthier family relationships also provide important foundation for positive mental health. And also it helps you when you support, you have a strong ties to the community that also helps with your well-being. So one of the things I want to mention to you for social connection. Now, we know sometimes you want to, especially during COVID when we were isolated at that time, depression, anxiety, all these things may have increased because you're so isolated. So as we reconnect with society and we have more social gathering, you find that you build stronger social connections. If you find you can do that with loved ones or people you have a community you're part of, then there are many benefits to that. For example, it can actually help you with reversing your depressive life, sort of like an antidepressant, because you find that your energy level will increase. You find that your mood will increase, like a mood booster, and you find that if you're happier in these settings, that you will be less prone to illnesses. Also, it helps in your life if you're celebrating with others, your milestones, communicating well, and so you have a better chance of success in certain areas of your life. And of course, you have a more balanced mental health, and that helps you have a feeling of being in a sense of better well-being, so you can express yourself more. Now, there are individuals who are they're either antisocial or social. That's what they claim they've given themselves those titles for. But then you have people who are introverts and extroverts. Introverts, they tend to keep a lot in, tend to keep to themselves. And then when they feel safe, in a sense where they're able to express themselves and, they're sort of more observant of people, then they will be able to have that deeper connection. But of course, they will have a more rooted connection if they have a family solution environment so that they're able to feel safe and to be able to express how they're feeling. The mental health and family support is very important, especially if you have family who can rally around you. And I know there are some families that are not blood related. You have families who have formed a bond through experiences, through connections, and you have those who are by blood who actually are not supported, and vice versa. So you're able to create or find your tribe, so to speak, and you're able to develop time for one-on-one bonding. You can share meals together. You can provide that support, emotional support, but also want to encourage you in another area, which is supporting lifelong learning. If you find you're with a group of people or with your family and you have things that you can explore together, maybe through academics or through courses or programs to help you keep your mind, focus on things that will, expand your mindset or your mind, but also acquire more knowledge together. You find that you're learning and growing together actually gives you, that overall well-being feeling. And also another part too as well is that when you look at key factors to building and maintaining that connection, you may have disagreements. You may have a misunderstanding, whether it's family or non-family, or family that you've actually created together in a tribe. There may, like I said, there may be misunderstanding. So as you are going through that bonding, you find that you will either pull back or express how you're feeling, especially someone saying something that may have been misconstrued. So learning how to acknowledge that, apologizing, especially when you have conflicts, also help with your ability to be more empathetic, to resolve conflictions, giving you better resolution, helping you to be able to cope, help you to be able to express. That actually helps you with your overall well-being for mental health as well. If you get involved and you show interest, that actually is a sign of mental health. So for example, children and adults, sometimes there may be a little conflict or friction. And so the human desire wants to be understood. And so finding ways to encourage each other, take part in a family member's interests, that helps with the bonding, which leads to, overall well-being and mental health, and also have that ability to bond and to be able to communicate more effectively. So suppressed emotion can also lead to mental health breakdown. So what you can consider as a coping mechanism. One could be mindfulness, gratitude, problem solving. And if there are times when you find your brain or your mind, you find you're like, it's full, you're not able to have a collective thought, that could be part of either you're feeling mentally challenged, stressed, anxious, but you haven't quite put your finger on it. And so if you can practice these things I'm going to share with you as coping strategies or coping mechanism, practicing mindfulness is one. If you find that you are in the present, in the now, you can actually reduce your stress level and your anxiety. I had a situation where someone was had an anxious moment and they were short on breath. And so in speaking with the person, if you're able to assist the person in sort of gathering themselves and breathing exercises can help as well. So part of the practicing mindfulness and paying attention to this to what's going on in your world and those around you, you can provide support in that way. Encourage someone to be mindful, without judgment, of course. Encourage someone to do, practice gratitude. What are you grateful for? This morning I got up, I'm grateful I was able to get up, get out of bed, free of pain. Get up, take that breath. Get up, get myself together, do what I have to do, be here on the call, sharing this information with you. Get up and you're able to say thank you for this day. So focus on the things that you can control and the positivity, even though sometimes you feel the world is, going chaotic and there's negative news here, there, and everywhere. You can control the narrative in your head. You can control, of course, if you're not suffering from a major depressive disorder. But if you're having, a mental challenge and you need to sort of gather yourself, you find ways that works for you, that you can easily gravitate to, that you can actually shift that on that altered state of feeling, that you're having a mental moment, or I should say, not mental moment, but you're having that moment where you feel out of balance. Having the ability to problem solve, as I mentioned before, helps your brain in creating solutions that takes you away from the problem and the stress that you're having. So it gives you that feeling of reduced, not feeling overwhelmed. It helps you to feel more calm because you've shifted your brain in the way of how you think. And also seeking support. So of course, friends, families, support groups, a community of people that you know, like, and trust. And having that sense of belonging helps with feeling less isolated, and of course, reducing that anxious or nervous feeling that you have. Another one is professional help. There's no shame in seeking professional help. Therapy, as I mentioned to you before, especially in our community in the Caribbean, it is a taboo to speak about mental health in some cases. Now they're more open in certain areas. I'm not saying that, it's nothing to say that we're not aware, but there's sometimes an old mindset that sort of limits you from expressing yourself. So if you feel that you need therapy, seek out to speak to your doctor and ask if you can be referred to a therapist. If you know someone who's speaking to someone who's a therapist, ask them for a referral. And if medication is needed, of course, speak with your doctor, consult to find what's the best solution for you, keeping in mind that some medications have serious side effects. So be aware, be mindful of what you're consuming and see how it's going to impact you, not just for your mental state, but other areas in your health. And support group, as I mentioned to you, is connecting with people who can share similar experiences. So you can provide a sense of community and, of course, as I mentioned, reducing the isolation. So what can you do to find balance, in your life, to embrace the challenges that happen? I call life challenges character building moments. I've been saying that for some time. And so these character building moments define who you become or who you are in the process. But in the process, you also need to be able to find a little balance here and there. And as you're doing things like that, you're mindful of how you're feeling. Pay attention, check in. Am I feeling a bit off today? Am I feeling really lethargic? I'm feeling anxious, or I find that my body's shaky in a sense where I'm not sick, but I feel nervous on the inside, or I feel like a bubblehead, or I find that I'm sleeping more than I should. I'm not eating. I'm finding ways that, to sort of cope in a negative way. So how do you do that? How do you embrace life and find balance while going through the journey you're having on your mental health? You can set goals. You can achieve certain things by working towards them. That'll help you feel or have a sense of purpose and accomplishment, which takes you off of the problems that you're going through right now. I'm not saying to check out. What I'm saying is if you set goals for yourself, small goals, Because if you give yourself too much of a big goal, your brain will think of it as a task. And if you're already overwhelmed and anxious, you're not going to set those, you're not going to actually focus on your goals. You're going to say it's a task, and the brain will actually work in the negative way. So set small goals. You know, if you have to get up in the morning and tidy your room, get up in the morning and do some stretches. Give yourself like there's something I actually do, which is called habit stacking. There's a book I'm reading or read and reread. It's called Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits, there's one that talks about habit stacking. And so just like myself, and you included, we have moments where we procrastinate, moments where we feel down, or we're grieving, or we feel depressed. And it's where in this situation, you can actually set mini goals for yourself. And if you find that you do certain things, you feel accomplished, your mind and your body will feel inspired to do more without feeling overwhelmed. So like I said, you get up, you take a shower, or you fix your hair, you get up and you tidy your room, you fix your bed, accomplish. That's a goal. And you can keep adding as you go, and you feel more accomplished. That means you're shifting yourself from the downward spiral of negative emotions to increasing your positivity, your positive upward cycle of positive emotions. So if you focus on positivity, versus negativity, that also helps with your overall well-being. Now, I'm not saying to think that everything is rosy, go through life with a rose-colored, rose-tinted glasses. I'm saying that you practice mindful, positive actions and emotions. You find you can shift and have your overall well-being, including your immune system, your mind, your body, your spirit, realigned, and you find that you find yourself slowly shifting away from how you're feeling. Now, is are the challenges in life going to just disappear? No, but it'll give you the ability to cope better and have a mindset that's more solution orientated, and focusing on only the problems at hand. Limiting exposure to your negative information that you get. For example, if you're listening to your news 24/7, or you're getting first thing in the morning, you get up and you're preparing for your day, and the first thing you're listening to is, negative news, sensationalized news. Going to bed before, that's what you listen to. Watching things that are toxic for your brain, that you're sort of fighting the negativity within and still listening to things that will impact you in a negative way. That's not a win-win. That actually is a negative. So if you take breaks from social media, conversations about the news, that can help to reduce your stress level and anxiety level as well. And I've actually practiced that for many years. I personally do not watch news for the last 12 years. I have people come to me and tell me, give me updates, and that's enough. I don't engage in that conversation. If something bad happens out there, I empathize, yes, but I'm not going to inundate myself with things that are not good, that are not conducive to my well-being and my health. So these are things, the tips that I've actually put in practice for myself, so I can share with you and tell you that it does work. What you use or utilize for your coping is all up to you, what you feel most comfortable with. So finding balance, striving for balance, work, life, personal, leisure time can be, a challenge, but you can actually put things in place. And I like to put things like in project style. If I know I have something planned, for example, like a date night with my husband, I can plan that. Spend time with family, I can do that. Work on my goals and dreams, I can do that. But that took time and practice. And so if you're doing all of these things, you find that you can be easily overwhelmed, especially if you have a lot you're dealing with. Single mothers, single fathers, you can have, a big family, but only one or two are committed to doing certain things in the family. You can have a workplace where you feel inundated because you're doing a lot of work, you have a lot of workload. You find many things, many factors can happen, or especially if you find you need to have a mental break. So one of the things I want to share with you is something called time management. Believe it or not, time management is vital for your mental health. And so many people can manage their time exceptionally well, and they actually find perfect balance. But some, like myself and you, can find that it doesn't always come naturally. All right, because you can cause a great deal of stress and anxiety just by thinking of how to be more impactful. So you're actually adding and compounding to your challenges that you're going through. So over time, as you become more effective with your managing your time in small incremental steps, then you'll find you have the ability to get things done. So for example, some of the benefits of time management would be things like increased productivity, work success, sorry, improve relationships because you're able to communicate more effectively, improve mood, decrease anxiety and depression, of course, improving your self-esteem because you have have an overall sense of well-being and feel more accomplished because you're able to get things done. I'm not going to go through everything on the screen, but you can read that at a later time. Take a screen capture if you wish to. But here's some more steps to managing your time better. One is to set boundaries. Learn to say no or not right now. For many years, for myself, I would always say okay because I want to help. I want to be there for everyone and everything. But if you can set boundaries, you find that you're able to rebalance and to, I call it emotional bank account. If you can actually, invest some time into yourself, be able to be more balanced, more centered, when the time comes to be there for your loved ones or even your workplace, you're able to know and identify what are priorities and what are emergencies, or basically things that other people's priorities that they want to put onto you. So if you're able to do that and to separate those things and do it in a timely manner that does not take away from you, and it sets healthy boundaries without you feeling inundated and overly stressed, that's one step closer to a healthier you mentally, mind, body, and spirit. Creating a to-do list and prioritizing. There's actually a story, I think there was a demonstration where this is one of the books that I've read before, is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And creating a to-do list can be quite long, especially if you have to carry it to the next day and the next day. But if you can prioritize that, you can say, okay, what's the highest priority? You can even number it or put it in alphabetical order if you're that inclined to do that, but you don't have to be that, technical. And you put the things you need to do for that day, for that week, for that month, or for that year, if you're so inclined to do that. And then you prioritize what is important. And I share this with you because in my younger days, I would leave myself for last. I would say yes, 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 yes. And then when it's time for my things to get done, I get frustrated because I don't have the time. So that sort of puts me in that spiral of thinking negative. So if you identify those boundaries, you create the to-do list, and the person comes in last minute, asks you for a favor or to help you with something, if you can get the things that are high priority done, then you can help the person in a timely manner. If you can commit the time, you find your sense of accomplishment will boost your energy, will boost your well-being, will boost your mental state. Self-esteem is very important because you don't realize that your self-esteem is impacted because you didn't take time for yourself. A perfect example is, let's say you made time to go to the gym, and then someone comes to ask you for a favor through work or home, and you put off that self-care piece, and then a day goes by, 2 days goes by, and the energy you had, the mindset to go to your workout has been lost. So you feel frustrated for that week. You feel sort of resentful sometimes. You feel that a little bit down because you didn't accomplish your goals. You just feel a little bit, depressed because, I wanted to have that workout done. I want to feel this way or be this way. So it impacts you unknowingly because your subconscious is like taking all of that in. But consciously, you're making these choices that are in a negative direction. Self-care, I cannot stress a lot. Self-care is so important. Self-care is so important. So working on your self-care, your me time, when you find that your energy has shifted from others to you, you may have a little bit of pushback. You may have people who are so accustomed of you being there to be all for everyone, including that person. They may say certain things to sort of morally corrupt you or to kidnap you morally, sorry, wrong term of words, morally kidnap you, saying, okay, you have no time for me. You have no time for the kids. You have no time for the house. You have no time, but you're taking a little bit of time for yourself so you can rejuvenate and recenter yourself. But it doesn't come across that way. So if you set boundaries, set the expectation, you take time for yourself, you have more of yourself to give because you have sort of given yourself that boost of energy you need for your mental state, that you can actually be a more well-rounded person. So here are some tips I'm going to share with you on what you can do just to boost your mental health. So if you just take 30 minutes a day to boost your mood and reduce your stress in the beginning of the day or towards the end of the night, depending on your shift for work or what you're doing for your stuff throughout the day. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're employee, it depends on what your level of your hours are for your business or for your work. If you find 30 minutes a day, you find that your memory becomes sharper. You find that, and these are things that I've actually witnessed myself. You have a higher self-esteem and confidence. You reduce your symptoms of depression. And so this actually works as a faster than antidepressants because you're actually taking that initiative for yourself to move, to be active. You find you have better quality of sleep and also happy to cope with different challenges. So exercise also improves the blood flow to your brain, right? So, the brain and the heart and the gut and everything connected works, in synchronicity. So when one is off balance, then the rest will be off balance. So if you find that you're moving and you have this sudden rush of adrenaline, your blood is flowing to your brain, it supports the growth of your neurons, it actually reduces symptoms of anxiety and depression. And you can actually test that theory because you can feel it as you're doing that or even after your workout. So the other thing too as well is maybe consider yoga. Yoga is another way that, especially if you find you cannot do high impact exercise, but you can do a low impact exercise, you can actually incorporate yoga, meditation, deep breathing. That all these can help with improving your overall mental wellness through mindfulness and meditation and yoga. Now, if you find that you cannot commit to a long period of time for yoga, a few minutes a day, every day, doing a little bit of yoga can help you, especially with your breathing exercise as well, while you're doing your yoga moves. Another tip too is for how you eat. If you're stressed and you're internalizing that, you find you may make unhealthy choices. One would be you have poor appetite. You find you don't have the mood to eat, you're not feeling hungry, you may skip a few meals, and that has a downward negative impact. Another one as well is sugar cravings. And I can attest to that because during the time with my mom, after her passing, and then all the different in that 8-month time when we had the 5 deaths in our family, including my brother, my husband's brother, and my stepmom, and an aunt, I found I was gravitating to a lot of sugary things, sweets. That was my coping mechanism. And then I realized, okay, that's not quite right. But it takes a minute for you to sort of catch on, right? So then making the conscious decision, because you don't realize you're depressed, allows you to get out of that cycle, that spiral. And so one of the things you can do to avoid, that what the food that triggers or causes depression or sort of contributes to depression is things like highly processed food. A lot of processed food, a lot of chemicals, negative impact on the brain and body. You find if you eat processed food, your brain becomes foggy. You find that you're not getting the right nutrients for your body, the body will have a negative reaction. So it may be an immediate gratification because it's comfort food. And there's a saying, this one hurt this one time. But if you keep making the same decisions about unhealthy eating, then it leads to a downward spiral of your overall mental health. So I would say to you, be mindful, because most depression are actually directly linked to vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And so this can help you to identify what I'm sharing with you of the things that you're consuming every day to be mindful. Now, there's a friend of mine who's a doctor, and he says if you eat right, think right, poop right, sleep right, that means your body is in alignment. But if you find you're not pooping right, you're not sleeping right, you're not thinking right, not eating right, then of course you will be a greater risk of depression, right? Or anxiety and heightened stress. So the way to avoid depression or to recover from depressing episode is also where you make the decision to change how you eat and to boost your immune system, your body, your energy, your mind with the right food that will deliver brain boosting nutrients and help you to regulate your brain chemistry. So here's a picture of some of the fruits and vegetables that I will share with you. Some of things like yogurt, nuts and seeds, vegetables, different types, depending on your sensitivity to certain fruits. Of course, be mindful of that. Some people have gluten sensitivities, like some people can't have oats, so there's other things you can have. And it's just some of the things you can have. So whole grain fruits, yogurts, green vegetables, and so forth. And of course, as we mentioned before, for what will decrease in your negative impact for your depression or your anxiety or stress is things like sugary drinks and food, and of course, highly caffeinated beverages or food. So what I would say to you, what you can include to give your brain that boost it needs is things that are high in vitamins that will help your body and reducing stress, like vitamin D. Vitamin D3 salt, is really key, and actually it's called the sunshine pill or mood enhancer, but also it's anti-cancer. And so things that you can consume, like eggs, egg yolks, fish, fortified cereals, milk, if you can have dairy and cheese, but also be mindful when you're having fish that is not farm-grown fish. It should be wild because most farm-grown products on the market are heavily, have a lot of antibiotics in there. So that goes from the fish to your body, which is not good, especially if you're diabetic. And this I learned through the care from my mom. And so taking additional vitamin D3 will help because that's the only vitamin that can be reproduced in your body. So if you're depleted and you don't realize you're depleted, because most people are not tested for vitamin D deficiency unless you pay for it here, especially in Canada. But of course, you're consuming things, but most times we know the foods we eat are depleted because of the soil nutrition that's lacking in the soil. So you may have to take additional vitamin as long as you can. There's also a note as well, if you have thyroid issue, you can have too much vitamin D. I learned this through PubMed. That's actually where I got most of my information from. So be mindful of that if you have a challenge with thyroid issues. Another one is minerals, iron, zinc, magnesium. Again, most of us don't know we're deficient in zinc, but you can be tested with that through a naturopathic doctor. They can test you there. A magnesium as well. We could be deficient, not realizing that we are. Of course, be sure you know where the source comes from for your magnesium, because some magnesium have heavy metals. So if you're getting it through foods, of course, make sure you know where you can do your due diligence to make sure you're eating the right and healthy balance of food. If you're able to consume them, if you don't have any allergies to those types of food, but knowing that you're increasing your dose of your iron, zinc, and magnesium can help you with your brain function as well as your mood. Omega-3 fatty acids. You can have like flaxseed and walnut. Keep in mind as well, if you're a cancer survivor or you're genetically opposed to cancer, flaxseed is not really the best choice to have. So again, do your due diligence with that. Walnuts are great for the brain, and a lot of benefits can be said for these types of fatty acid foods. So it combats mental stress. Consuming water is very important. That's my challenge for myself every single day. I don't really have 8 to 10, but I try my best to get close to 8. I may have 6 glasses of water, so I'm keeping it real. But water also helps you with your overall well-being. Staying hydrated keeps the brain clear. Also, having timely meals and avoiding skipping your meals as well is important for your mental health. So as I share this with you, I want to bring to your attention 3 superfoods that you can actually consider to add to your regime, your food diet that you actually have planned out for yourself. And I love these because these have been in part of my world and my family world for some time, and I've noticed a significant difference in my body, my overall well-being, and also people that we share this with. They've come back and told us of how they're feeling, because the body does not lie. It tells you exactly how it's feeling. You may not be able to put 2 and 2 together to know exactly what you're going through because you're not medically trained, but you can know that something's not quite right. So Ganoderma lucidum is one. It's actually a mushroom. It has a lot of uh, um, nutrients, including a lot of amino acids. Also really good with polysaccharides and try a lot of nutrients like your minerals and your vitamins that you need that normally you don't get in some foods because it's so depleted. So it's an adaptogen. It actually goes into your body naturally, and it helps to reduce stress and promotes overall health benefits. Cordyceps is another one. It actually gives you the energy you need, and it helps you with your overall endurance. It helps with different things in your body, including your supporting your immune system, but also helps with things like mood disorders. The lion's mane is new to my world, and I love it because it helps with your brain function. So the brain and the gut, they speak all the time. And if there's an interruption with the brain and the gut, because it's not communicating effectively, you find that you may have, especially when you have issues with your gut, there's something called leaky gut syndrome. It's not connecting. You find that you may have brain fog. You find you can't think clearly. You find you have moments where your cognition's off. That's part of your mental health well-being as well. So I want to introduce you to, and as we're going to wrap up here shortly, is a part of why we have this health talk. We discovered wellness with this brand called Organo. It's the sharing the power of the Ganoderma and the other mushrooms that have impacted our lives, and we want to impact others as well in a positive way. So if you actually think of ways you can improve your health, most of you have heard of things like ginseng and spirulina. You've heard of different types of superfoods out there. And so we've sort of been educated at, or we've consumed them, and we can see some of the things that it has done for our body. Many have known from decades, and now in North America, we're hearing about these things that are good for us, like coconut oil. So learning about this particular mushroom came at a time when we lost, and I lost an aunt about 13 years ago, almost 14 years ago. And that time she had two terminal illnesses. And in this case, I found that this came at a time after she passed. We're looking at ways to help improve her health, but because of the anomaly what was happening with her, it was very rare that for someone in her ethnicity to have these two illnesses, Pick's disease and ALS, at the same time. So in her case, there was no drug she could take, there was no dietary restriction, and so unfortunately, within 2 years of passing, she of diagnosis, she passed, and then 3 weeks after we laid her to rest, this was shared with me. So knowing the mindset I was in a time of grieving, I saw this but didn't quite understand it. And then by consuming, just making one shift, one choice, I found in myself, my husband, and people that we shared it with as a customer, at the time, I found the difference amazing in my body and those who shared with me. So being mindful, practicing positive wellness is very key to your better self. So I'm going to share with you, these are actual findings. So as I mentioned to you, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a practitioner, but I love to research and put everything under one presentation. So there's actually a website I go to. I go to many. I go to Harvard, Yale, I go to the Mayo Clinic, I go to Johns Hopkins. I find a lot of credible sites that I can get data from. But PubMed, the Public Medical Library, is where I get my findings from some of the tests, studies that were done by doctors, practitioners, and they put their findings with no interest attached to it. So it's just purely for research. There's over 3,000 case studies on just the Ganoderma alone, and still adding more. Now, this actual mushroom has been about for thousands of years. And in the Eastern world, it is recommended to have it, pair it with medication so that your overall well-being is not impacted as you're trying to heal your body. As you know, some medication have serious side effects. So the actual mushroom helps to protect the organs, your cells, your overall body, whilst you're going through the process of healing with the medication that they're giving you if it's able to be healed. So your body gets what it can. In this case, the spores. Now keep in mind, the actual spores grows into 3 stages. The rooting body, underneath it's the actual, the roots, which is called mycelium. The rooting body is called Ganoderma or reishi. And then there's little seeds that are called spores. And the spores germinate once it's done as nature intended. It's the most powerful part of the actual mushroom. So the spores actually helps to in early depression-like behavior. So once it's identified, you can actually consume this naturally because it's a natural food supplement, also considered a medicinal mushroom. It helps in the impact of your mood, and also helps with your overall improvement of your depressive-like behavior. Another thing as well, there's many people go through many health conditions such as fibromyalgia, cancer, lupus. You may have other health conditions, and we have, depression disorder that are temporary because you're going through these cycles of illness. And it's shown that it actually improves the overall well-being in the mood for those who are going through things like fibromyalgia. And so it can be taken either as complementary to your medication you're taking, if you're taking medication for depression, or any type of major disorder for mental health. Also, it can be taken as an alternative over time. Another one here is this PubMed study. There's a list of things it can help with, but I also wanted to highlight that it also is known for helping with depression. So not only is it supporting your immune system and helps you to get a happier mood, it helps with reducing your stress. There's such a thing as oxidative stress, which is a negative thing in your body that happens. So if you're consuming this, it actually helps with your overall reduction of your stress level. It also improves your sort of behavior, or if you're going through things like you have anxiety or pain associated with your depression. It also helps with acts as an antidepressant as well, and this is Ganoderma lucidum. So as I see here on this slide, it is a little picture of the actual mushroom. It's high in antioxidants. Let's to give it a comparison. Let's say you're having avocados, and you have maybe half of an avocado. Some people would do that, sometimes the whole thing, depending on the size. You actually need 7 avocados to give you the amount of nutrients, antioxidants you would get in just a single dose of the reishi mushroom or Ganoderma. Strawberries, at least 10 cups to get 10 of those to get what you need. So you need to have at least 150 or 15 so 150 strawberries to get a dose of the antioxidants you need for the mushroom. So because of the fact that the mushroom is very high in omega-3s, minerals and vitamins, you get the supplements you need in addition to the energy you need from food. So it's like you're actually adding that superfood to your daily regime. So things like I mentioned before, Ganoderma, lion's mane, cordyceps, they're highly anti-inflammatory, but also help with your stress, reducing your stress. The medical mushrooms actually have, they're low in calorie and fat, but also they help with providing the right amount of nutrients you need. So it's like carbohydrates, proteins, fibers, vitamins, all of that is part of the makeup of the mushroom. So it's very high antioxidants, terpenoids, flavonoids, which is part of what you would eat on your everyday food. These come in smaller availability in what you eat every day, like broccolis, green tea, tomatoes, all those things, types of fruits and vegetables. But these also have been found in the Ganoderma. And as I'm going through the next couple of slides, just to wrap up here, I want to also mention cordyceps because it's also the highlight of the conversation here. It helps with, it actually exerts an antidepressant effect. So you're taking, let's say, Ganoderma plus the reishi, you get a well-balanced amount of the nutrients you need to help you with your overall mental health. Lion's mane is one as well. So as I mentioned before, the gut and the brain, but it also supports the cognition. So people are going through dementia, Alzheimer's, they're going through things like Parkinson's, it impacts the brain, right? So all of these things impact your overall well-being and your mental health. So having something that is natural to help with your mental energy, your cognition, and so forth will help you along your life journey as you're going through the phase of mental challenges. Here's one of the perfect example of how you can actually consume it. There's one of the products we have, which is called Royale. It has all three of the mushrooms. So you have the lion's mane, cordyceps, and the reishi in a simple cup of coffee that has these things, the trifecta. You consume it and you get all the nutrients you need. So for example, if you're a coffee drinker or a tea drinker, I would maybe encourage you to switch to brand, at least for 30, 60, 90 days, to pay attention to your body to see what's happening. And if you're consuming that and you see that there's a change and in a positive way, then I would encourage you to continue. But at least if you were able to challenge your health and your overall well-being, you could pay attention to what you're experiencing. One of the best way I can say that I shared a cup of hot cocoa and green tea with someone I know, a friend, and she actually was giving me her testimony. I didn't even ask her, and she mentioned she had a gut issue, and she found that her brain, her clarity of her thoughts, brain fog wasn't there anymore, and she actually shared her testimony by video, and I was so thankful I was able to be a part of her health journey. So what makes our brand different is that ours is naturally grown, organically certified, where others are grown as organic but not naturally grown. So they're free of pesticides, but they are not as healthy and they don't give the amount of nutrients they're supposed to have as versus naturally grown. Example, you consume our brand, you have a patent on that. So basically the processing of how to infuse it into the beverages we have, like tea, coffee, hot cocoa, it gets into your body 99% versus those that are 4 to 13% absorption rate. It also comes in the capsule form, cased in vegetable casing. For those of you who don't, who are very cautious about having anything that's not vegetable based. So in the case of this, it's all natural and you can consume it and it's 100% certified. So the nutraceuticals come in the 3 stages: mycelium, ganoderma, spores. Here's another one of the PubMed studies. It also helps with chronic social defeat stress. It helps with also major depressive disorders. It also comes in teas. So the tea form, which is not naturally caffeine free, has the cordyceps and the ganoderma. So it's also something you can consider. It can be consumed hot or cold. And here are a few more products. We have it in the coffees like Cafe Supreme. We have it in hot cocoa. We have organic coffees. Even the mocha, which is one of my favorite, which is chocolate, my favorite go-to, and coffee. And I find that it actually helps. So that wraps up our presentation. And I wanted to ask if there's any questions that you may have. You can put in the chat or you can take yourself off of mute and we can try to address them as best as we can. All right, so thank you so much for those of you who have joined. I appreciate your time. And of course, join us here again next Tuesday at 7 p.m. I will share what the topic will be for next week via our customer group, our longevity group, and you're able to accept the invite and to join. Please feel free to share it with others so they too can be involved in this conversation, this topic, because we all know that mental health is so important. And doesn't matter what you're going through, what stage you are, just know that, the things that you're experiencing for this time and season in your life, that you can overcome these things if you surround yourself with the right coping skills, coping mechanism, the right people in your tribe, so to speak, just to know that you're not alone. And at times you may feel isolated, but just know that, I'm not saying the cliche as this too shall pass, because that would sound like, we're undermining your or devaluing how you're feeling, but just to know that, you are worthy, you are loved, you are capable, you are able. And, as you go through life's journey, to know that you will be able to get through this because each of you who are going through different phases of mental health and mental challenge, just know that you are an overcomer, not just a conqueror. So have a great day. Take care. Blessings to each and every one of you. Bye-bye for now.